The sun rose slow and heavy over Willow Creek Drive that spring, the kind of Texas morning where the humidity already clung to your skin before you'd finished your first cup of coffee. In the modest ranch-style house at number 1427, Eleanor Whitaker stood at the kitchen window, watching the live oaks sway like old friends sharing secrets. The house itself was nothing flashy, no marble countertops or infinity pool, just solid brick, wide porches, and a metal roof that sang during thunderstorms. It had been their home for 43 years, ever since Harlan put down the down payment with money he'd saved from roughneck shifts in the Permian Basin. Harlan Whitaker had been a big man in every sense, 6'3", broad-shouldered, with a laugh that rolled out like thunder across a dry prairie. He'd spent 35 years chasing oil rigs from Houston to the Gulf, coming home smelling of diesel and salt, always with a story and a kiss for Ellie. Retirement hadn't slowed him much. He still tinkered in the barn, rebuilt carburetors for neighbors, and tended the 5-acre spread with the same care he'd once given drilling platforms. Eleanor, 5'4" and wiry as barbed wire, had taught 3rd grade at Katy Elementary for 28 years before hanging up her chalk. These days, she preferred dirt under her nails, coaxing tomatoes, okra, and sunflowers from the red clay soil. They weren't rich, not by Houston's oil money standards, no River Oaks mansion, no weekend place in Galveston, but they were secure. Harlan's pension plus careful investments in blue-chip stocks and a few acres that had appreciated wildly as the city sprawled westward had built them a nest egg most folks would envy, enough to live comfortably and leave something behind. Money, though, had never been the measure of their life. It was the Sunday barbecues under the big pecan tree, the way Harlan's eyes crinkled when Eleanor teased him about his famous brisket rub, the quiet evenings on the porch swing listening to crickets and distant freight trains. Their 2 boys, Travis and Cody, had once filled that house with noise and promise. Travis, born first, had been the golden child, football star at Katy High, full ride to SMU, now a sharp-suited real estate developer flipping luxury condos in Dallas. Cody, 3 years younger, had the charm and the grin, the one who could talk anyone into anything. He'd parlayed that into a string of boutique CrossFit gyms across Austin, complete with smoothie bars and Instagram-famous trainers. Eleanor and Harlan had given them every leg up: private high school tuition, college paid in full, down payments on first houses, startup cash when ventures looked promising. There had been lean years. Travis lost big in the 2008 crash. Harlan wrote a check for $50,000 without hesitation. Cody's first gym almost folded. Another $35,000 kept the lights on. "There are boys," Harlan would say, scratching the back of his neck the way he did when something bothered him but he wouldn't admit it. "Family helps family. They'll figure it out." Eleanor always nodded, though a small knot of worry had started forming in her chest years ago. The visits dwindled. Thanksgiving turned into Zoom calls with bad lighting and excuses about traffic. Birthdays got a Venmo transfer and a promise to visit next month. Eleanor kept sending packages anyway: pecan pies wrapped in foil for Travis, jars of Harlan's dry rub for Cody. Harlan never complained. "They're building something big," he'd tell her. "We'll see them more when the dust settles." The one steady light in their later years was Mia. Mia Whitaker, Travis's daughter from his first marriage, was 19 now, living with her mother in a tidy duplex in Fort Worth. The divorce had been ugly. Travis had moved on fast, remarried a Pilates instructor half his age, started a second family. Mia, though, had never drifted far from the ranch. Every summer since she was 8, she'd come for weeks at a time. She'd trail Harlan around the property, learning to mend barbed wire, feed the chickens, change oil in the old Ford pickup. With Eleanor, she'd bake biscuits at dawn, plant marigolds, and listen to stories about the old days when Houston was more cattle than concrete. They had her grandfather's clear blue eyes and her grandmother's stubborn jaw. While Travis chased skyline deals and Cody chased followers, Mia dreamed quietly of medical school, pediatrics specifically. "I want to help the kids nobody else notices," she told Eleanor one afternoon while they weeded the tomato beds, dirt streaked across her cheek.
the ones who come to school hungry or scared. Eleanor hugged her tight, smelling sunshine and teenage shampoo, and felt something settle deep inside her. This girl was the best of them. It began with a cough in March. Harlan waved it off as spring allergies. By April, the cough had deepened, rattling in his chest like gravel in a tin can. Blood appeared on his handkerchief one morning. The doctor and Katie sent him straight to MD Anderson. Stage 3 lung cancer. The words landed like a sledgehammer on dry ground. Chemo started in May. Harlan lost his hair, his appetite, his strength. Radiation scorched his throat. Eleanor became nurse, cook, driver, cheerleader. She blended protein shakes he could barely swallow, held ice chips to his lips, sat up nights when pain kept him awake. Travis texted, "I'll fly down next weekend." Cody called, "Got a retreat in the hill country, but I'll come after." Weekends passed. Travis cited a can't-miss closing in Frisco. Cody had a celebrity trainer flying in for photos. Neither came. Mia did. Every Friday after community college classes in Fort Worth, she'd drive the 3 hours, arriving with groceries, cleaning supplies, and that steady smile. She'd scrub bathrooms, read Louise L'Amour novels aloud to Harlan when his eyes hurt too much to focus, sleep on the couch so Eleanor could catch a few hours in their bed. "I'm here, Grandpa," she'd whisper, squeezing his hand. "Rest easy." By September, Harlan was bedbound, oxygen hissing softly through tubes. One golden October evening, as the sun painted the bedroom walls amber, he gripped Eleanor's fingers. "Ellie," he rasped, "promise you'll look after that girl. Mia's got real heart. Don't let her forget she's loved." "I promise," Eleanor said, throat tight. Tears slipped down her cheeks. That night, with Mia holding one hand and Eleanor the other, Harlan Whitaker slipped away, peaceful as a long breath finally released. The funeral was set for the following Saturday at First Baptist in Katy. Simple, the way Harlan wanted. Eleanor sent the notices. Travis replied, devastated, trying to make it. Cody, "So sorry, Mom. Packed schedule, but sending love." Mia arrived Friday night, arms loaded with casseroles from neighbors and red-rimmed eyes. "Whatever you need, Grandma." Saturday morning, Eleanor, dressed in black, pinned a sunflower to her lapel, Harlan's favorite. Mia stood beside her in the church foyer. The oak casket waited at the front, draped in bluebonnets and sunflowers from the garden. The clock struck 10. The pews stayed empty except for a handful of old friends and church ladies bearing foil pans. Reverend Hayes shifted uncomfortably. "We can wait a few more minutes, Eleanor." She looked at the double doors, willing them to open. They didn't. "No," she said quietly. "Let's begin." The service was short. Amazing grace, a psalm, kind words about a good man who lived honest. Eleanor rose last. Her voice didn't waver. "Harlan taught us love shows up, not with words, with boots on the ground, hands ready to help. He showed up every day of his life." Mia gripped her hand so tight it hurt. They followed the hearse to the family plot on the ranch, under the big pecan tree. Eleanor tossed a handful of red dirt on the casket lid. The sound was final, hollow. That night, back in the too-quiet house, Eleanor sat in Harlan's recliner. Mia brewed coffee. Eleanor's phone buzzed. A Facebook notification. Travis's post. "Poolside in Cabo, margarita raised." Caption, "Closing deals and living large. #boss mode." Another buzz. Cody's Instagram story. White sand beach, yoga pose at sunrise. Recharging the soul in Mexico. #grateful. Eleanor's fingers tightened around the mug. They hadn't come. They'd gone on vacation. She looked at Mia, who was quietly wiping the kitchen counter. Resolute crystallized inside her, hard and clear. "Mia, Harlan always told me family ain't just blood, it's who shows up. Tomorrow morning, I'm calling the lawyer."
Chapter 2. Shadows of Absence. The first weeks after Harlan's burial passed like fog rolling across a Texas pasture. Thick, disorienting, and impossible to see through clearly.
Eleanor moved through the ranch house on autopilot, her footsteps echoing off hardwood floors that once rang with Harlan's deep laugh and the boys' teenage arguments. The recliner still held the faint imprint of his body. His Carhartt jacket hung on the hook by the back door, smelling faintly of motor oil and Old Spice. She couldn't bring herself to move either one. Instead, she kept the house exactly as it had been the morning he died, as if preserving every detail might somehow keep part of him there. Mornings were the hardest. She'd wake before dawn, reach instinctively for the empty side of the bed, and feel the cold sheet like a fresh wound. Coffee tasted bitter. The radio played softly in the kitchen, classic country station Harlan loved, but George Strait's voice only made the silence louder when the song ended. She fed the chickens out of habit, scattered scratch in the run Harlan had built from scrap lumber, watched them peck and cluck as if nothing had changed. The vegetable garden, once their shared pride, had gone wild with weeds. She tried pulling them one afternoon, but her hands shook too much to grip the trowel. She sat on the overturned bucket Harlan used for milking stools and cried until the sun dipped low and the mosquitoes came out. Mia became her anchor. The girl drove in from Fort Worth every few days after her community college classes and diner shifts, bringing grocery bags filled with practical things, eggs, bread, chicken broth, and impractical comforts, like fresh daisies from the roadside stand. She never asked if Eleanor needed help, she simply started doing. Scrubbed the bathrooms until the tiles gleamed, vacuumed the living room, folded laundry still warm from the dryer. When Eleanor tried to protest, Mia just smiled, that gentle, stubborn smile she'd inherited from her grandfather. "Grandma, let me. It makes me feel useful." One evening in late October, as the sky turned the color of bruised peaches, they sat together on the porch swing. Crickets chirped in the tall grass, Mia sipped sweet tea, Eleanor held a mug of chamomile she hadn't touched. The air carried the faint scent of wood smoke from a neighbor's burn pile. "Grandma," Mia said quietly, "I keep thinking about Grandpa's last night, how peaceful he looked, like he was just going home." Eleanor nodded, throat tight. "He was ready, told me he'd see me on the other side, said to tell you he was proud." Mia's eyes filled. "I miss him so much it hurts." "Me too, baby. Every damn minute." They sat in companionable silence until the stars came out, pinpricks against velvet black. Then Mia asked the question Eleanor had been avoiding even in her own mind. "What about Dad and Uncle Cody? Have they called?" Eleanor exhaled slowly. "Travis texted once, said he was devastated. Cody sent flowers, those generic carnations from the grocery store wire service. Card read, 'Thinking of you.' No visit, no real sorry." Mia looked down at her hands. "I'm not surprised. Dad's always been distant, even when I was little. Mom used to say he loved the idea of family more than the actual people in it." The words landed heavy. Eleanor had thought the same thing for years but never voiced it. Instead, she'd excused, explained, covered. "They're busy," she'd tell Harlan when another holiday passed without a visit. "Work's demanding." Harlan would grunt, but he never argued. Deep down, though, she knew he felt the sting too. That night, unable to sleep, Eleanor went into the small office Harlan called his war room. File cabinets lined one wall, labeled in his precise block printing. She pulled open the drawer marked Family Finances and found the folders she'd half remembered, Travis expenses, Cody loans and gifts. She carried them to the kitchen table, spread them under the overhead light. Page after page told a story she'd never fully faced. Checks written over the last 15 years, $22,000 for Travis's gambling debts after his divorce. "Just this once, Mom, he's learning." $18,000 to bail Toady out of credit card trouble. Business startup cost. Another $50,000 for Travis's first condo down payment in 2008. Market'll turn, promised to repay. Another $35,000 when Cody's first gym nearly folded. Emails printed and clipped. "Hey Mom, need $12K for closing costs on the new flip. Can wire it Tuesday. Appreciate it, Dad. We'll square up when the membership numbers hit." Not one repayment, not one thank you card that wasn't perfunctory. The total crept past $320,000. Harlan had tracked every dollar, not out of pettiness, but out of quiet caution. A yellow sticky note in his writing was taped to the inside cover of Travis's folder, for the record, in case. Eleanor closed the folders and sat staring at the grain of the oak table. Anger wasn't hot and explosive. It was cold, steady, like groundwater carving stone. She thought of the empty pews, the Cabo selfies, the beach yoga pose posted the morning they lowered Harlan into red Texas dirt. The next morning, she made the call she'd been rehearsing in her head. "Bill, it's Eleanor Whitaker. I need an appointment as soon as you can." Attorney William or Bill Ramirez had handled their estate planning for nearly 2 decades. Wills, trust, the deed when they added the back 40 acres. His office sat in a low brick building on the edge of Katy, smelling of fresh coffee and old law books. When Eleanor walked in, Bill rose from behind his wide desk, arms open. "Eleanor," he said, voice thick, "I'm so damn sorry about Harlan. He was one of the best." She managed a small smile. "Thank you, Bill. He thought the world of you." They sat. Bill folded his hands. "What can I do?" She told him everything, the funeral, the absences, the social media posts she'd seen and saved screenshots of, the folders now in her purse. She spoke calmly, fact by fact, the way she used to explain long division to third graders. "I want to change the will," she finished. "Everything, the ranch, the investments, the savings, goes to Mia, in trust. Travis and Cody get nothing." Bill removed his glasses, polished them slowly. "That's a significant change. They could contest. Grief makes people emotional, Eleanor. Courts sometimes look sideways at big revisions right after a death." "I'm not grieving blindly," she said. "I'm seeing clearly for years. Mia was there, every weekend. She held his hand when the pain got bad. She drove me to the pharmacy at midnight. Travis and Cody, they were sipping cocktails on a beach. If that's not reason enough, I don't know what is." Bill studied her a long moment. Then he nodded. "All right, we can structure it as an irrevocable living trust. You transfer assets now, avoids probate, harder to challenge. We put conditions on Mia's distributions. Education first, staggered payouts at 21, 25, 30. Safeguards so she can't blow through it. Sound right?" "Perfect." They spent the next hour outlining details: life estate for Eleanor so she could stay in the house as long as she lived, charitable remainder if Mia predeceased, unlikely but prudent, no contest clauses to discourage lawsuits. Bill promised drafts within the week. Driving home, Eleanor felt something shift inside her chest. Not joy, not revenge, but relief, like setting down a load she'd carried so long she'd forgotten its weight. That night, Travis called. His voice was casual, almost cheerful. "Hey, Mom, just checking in. How you holding up?" "Fine," she answered. "Good, good. Listen, about Dad's estate. When's the reading of the will? Need to plan travel." "Soon," she answered. "You'll hear." After she hung up, she forwarded the trust outline to Bill with one line: "Proceed." Outside, the first northern of the season rattled the live oaks. Eleanor stepped on the porch, wrapped Harlan's old Carhartt around her shoulders, and breathed in the crisp air. Somewhere in the dark, an owl called low and mournful. She whispered to the night, "We're fixing it, Harlan. For Mia. For us."
Chapter 3. Revelations and Resolutions. Spring arrived in Texas the way it always did, sudden, showy, and unapologetic. One week the fields were brown and brittle. The next, bluebonnets exploded along every highway shoulder like spilled paint. An Indian paintbrush flared red against the green. On the Whitaker Ranch, the pecan tree budded new leaves, and the vegetable garden Eleanor had neglected all winter began to stir under her hesitant hands. She planted tomatoes, okra, and a row of sunflowers in memory of Harlan, pressing seeds into the warm earth with a quiet prayer. The work grounded her. It gave her something to tend besides grief. The irrevocable living trust was signed and notarized by mid-March. Bill Ramirez had moved fast
faster than Eleanor expected. Assets transferred quietly, the ranch deed, brokerage accounts, CDs, the life insurance payout that had arrived 2 months after the funeral. Everything now sat inside a carefully constructed trust with Mia as sole beneficiary. Eleanor retained a life estate in the house and 5 acres, meaning she could live there as long as she wanted, but upon her death, the property and funds would pass directly to Mia. No probate, no public reading, no easy target for a will contest. Distributions were staggered, 25% at age 21 for college expenses, with receipts required, another 25 at 25 for graduate school or first home, the balance at 30. Conditions were simple but firm. No extravagant spending, no felony convictions, proof of enrollment or employment. Bill had built in every safeguard short of chaining the money to a rock. Mia sat stunned at the kitchen table the evening Eleanor explained it all. Sunlight slanted through the window, catching dust motes above the oilcloth. A half-eaten plate of cornbread and pinto beans sat between them. "Grandma," Mia said, voice small, "this is everything. The ranch, the savings. What about Dad, Uncle Cody?" Eleanor reached across and covered Mia's hand with her own. The girl's fingers were calloused from diner shifts and weekend chores. "Honey, they had their chances, years of them. Your grandpa and I gave and gave, thinking one day they'd give back. Time, attention, gratitude, something. They didn't. You did. You were here when the nights were long and the pain was bad. You read to him when his eyes hurt. You held my hand when I couldn't hold his anymore. This isn't punishment. It's justice. It's honoring what your grandpa valued most." Mia's eyes brimmed. "I never wanted his money. I just wanted him." "I know. That's exactly why you deserve it." They cried together then, quiet, cleansing tears that left them lighter. Afterward, Mia helped clear the table, and they stepped outside to watch the sunset paint the sky in streaks of pink and gold. A mockingbird sang from the fence post, imitating a cardinal, then a car alarm, then silence. Eleanor felt Harlan's presence in the breeze, approving. The storm broke in April. Travis must have had someone watching the county records, or maybe a nosy title company friend tipped him off. Either way, he showed up unannounced on a Saturday morning, his black Escalade kicking up gravel as it roared down the long driveway. He stepped out in pressed khakis and a polo shirt, sunglasses perched on his head like a crown. Behind him, Cody climbed out of the passenger seat, wearing gym shorts and a hoodie, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. Eleanor watched them from the porch, arms crossed, Harlan's old Carhartt draped over her shoulders against the morning chill. Travis didn't waste time on pleasantries. "Mom, we need to talk. Now." "Porch is fine. Coffee's inside if you want it." They climbed the steps. Cody hung back, hands in pockets, eyes on the ground. Travis pulled off his sunglasses and fixed her with the look he used for hesitant buyers. Direct, confident, a little impatient. "I saw the property records. You put the ranch in trust for Mia. Everything. You disinherited us?" "Yes." Cody's head snapped up. "Mom, come on. That's our inheritance. Dad worked his whole life." "Your father worked his whole life for family. Family that shows up. You two were sipping margaritas in Cabo the day we put him in the ground, posting pictures like it was just another vacation. I saw them. Saved them." Travis flushed. "That trip was booked months before. Non-refundable. Business." "Business," she echoed. "Always business, or retreats, or closing deals. Never time for your dying father. Never time for me." Cody shifted. "Mom, this is grief talking. You're not thinking straight." "I'm thinking straighter than I have in decades." Travis stood up abruptly, chair scraping. "We'll fight this. Lawyers. Contest the trust. You were vulnerable. Mia influenced you." "Let them try. Every document is airtight. Bill Ramirez drew it up, and those folders, they'll be in discovery. Every dollar we gave you, every promise you broke, the judge will see the pattern. Cody looked sick. Mom, please, we're sorry. We'll do better. Eleanor met his eyes. Words are cheap, Cody. Actions cost something. You two had years to show me actions. You chose not to. They left without another word. Travis slammed the Escalade door hard enough to echo across the pasture. Gravel sprayed as they peeled out. That night, Eleanor couldn't sleep. She sat in the dark living room, Harlan's recliner creaking under her weight, and opened her phone. A new text from Mia. "You okay, Grandma?" Her dad was there. She typed back, "I'm fine. We talked. It's done." The reply came quick. "I love you. Call if you need me." Eleanor set the phone down and stared at the framed photo on the mantel, Harlan and her on their 40th anniversary, standing in front of the rose bushes he'd planted the year they bought the place. They were smiling, arms around each other, sun in their hair. She touched the glass. "We did right for the girl who earned it." Outside, a whippoorwill called once, twice, then fell silent. Somewhere in the dark, the ranch settled into peace.
Chapter 4. The Courtroom Storm. The Harris County Civil Courthouse rose like a glass and steel monolith in the heart of downtown Houston, its reflective windows throwing back the glare of a late May sun. Eleanor Whitaker arrived 40 minutes early, parking her old Ford pickup in the underground garage and riding the elevator up with a knot in her stomach she refused to acknowledge. She wore the same navy suit she'd bought for Harlan's funeral, simple, knee-length, no frills, paired with low black heels and a single strand of pearls he'd given her on their 30th anniversary. Mia walked beside her, carrying a small leather portfolio Bill had prepared with extra copies of key documents. The girl looked older than her 20 years in a charcoal blazer and slacks, hair pulled back neatly, eyes steady despite the tremor Eleanor could feel in her grip. Bill Ramirez met them in the lobby. His handlebar mustache was freshly waxed, his navy pinstripe suit pressed sharp. He hugged Eleanor briefly, then shook Mia's hand. "We're solid," he said in that calm, measured Texas drawl. "Their case is smoke and mirrors, emotion dressed up as law. The judge is the Honorable Maria Delgado. She's fair, but she doesn't suffer fools. We stick to facts. We walk out winners." They passed through security, badges clipped to lapels, and found seats in the gallery of courtroom 14B. The room smelled of polished wood, old paper, and a faint metallic tang of air conditioning. Wooden benches stretched in rows behind the bar. A few reporters from the Houston Chronicle and a local TV station already sat scribbling notes. Word had spread. Small-town family drama with big money and bigger hurt feelings always drew eyes. Travis and Cody arrived 10 minutes later, flanked by their attorney, a tall, angular man named Preston Hargrove from a glossy Dallas firm. Hargrove wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Eleanor's truck, cufflinks flashing under the fluorescent lights. Travis looked polished but tense, jaw tight under his tan. Cody slouched, hoodie swapped for a sport coat that didn't quite fit, eyes darting like he expected to be called on in class. They didn't look at Eleanor or Mia as they took seats at the plaintiff's table. Judge Delgado entered at precisely 9 o'clock. She was in her late 50s, dark hair streaked silver, reading glasses perched low on her nose. After the bailiff called the court to order, she peered over her frames at the packed gallery. "This is cause number 2026-047892, Whitaker v. Whitaker Trust. Petition to invalidate an irrevocable living trust on grounds of undue influence and lack of testamentary capacity. Counsel, are we ready?" Hargrove rose smoothly. "Ready, Your Honor." Bill stood. "Ready, Your Honor." The judge nodded. "Mr. Hargrove, your opening." Hargrove painted a picture of a grieving widow, isolated on a rural property, vulnerable after losing her husband of 45 years. Mrs. Whitaker was in no state to make rational decisions about her estate, he said, voice smooth as polished marble. Her granddaughter, Mia Whitaker, exerted undue influence, living on the property, performing daily tasks, positioning herself as the sole source of comfort. This trust, executed mere weeks after the death, strips the natural heirs, her two devoted sons, of their rightful inheritance and funnels millions to a single beneficiary. We ask the court to set it aside. Bill's opening was shorter, quieter, devastating in its simplicity. This is not a case of undue influence. It is a case of earned legacy. Harlan Whitaker built a life of hard work and quiet generosity. His widow honored that legacy by directing it to the one person who honored him in return. The petitioners were absent during his final illness and funeral. They posted vacation photos from Mexico while their father was buried. Documents will show over $300,000 in financial support given freely over the years. Support never repaid, never acknowledged. Mrs. Whitaker acted with clear mind and clear conscience. Testimony began with Eleanor on the stand. She walked to the witness box, placed her hand on the Bible, and met Judge Delgado's eyes without flinching. Bill led her through the timeline, Harlan's diagnosis, the treatments, the long nights. Did your sons visit during this period? No, sir. Did they attend the funeral? No. Did you see social media posts from them on the day of the burial? Yes. She described the Cabo poolside photo, the beach yoga shot. Bill introduced printed screenshots as exhibits. The gallery murmured. Hargrove cross-examined. Mrs. Whitaker, isn't it possible your grief clouded your judgment, that you were susceptible to suggestion from your granddaughter? Eleanor's voice stayed even. Grief didn't cloud my judgment, Mr. Hargrove. It cleared it. I saw exactly who showed up and who didn't. Mia was there, every weekend, every crisis. My sons were not. Next came Mia. She took the stand, voice steady despite the room's sudden hush. Describe your relationship with your grandfather, Bill asked. He was my safe place, she said simply. When my parents divorced, he and Grandma never made me choose sides. They just loved me. I spent summers on the ranch. I helped with chores, read to him when he got sick, sat with him when he couldn't sleep. I didn't do it for money. I did it because I loved him. Hargrove tried to rattle her. Did you ever discuss the family finances with your grandmother? Never. I knew they helped Dad and Uncle Cody a lot. I never asked for anything. The brothers testified after lunch. Travis went first, polished and practiced. We loved our father. Work kept us away, but we called. We sent money when we could. Bill interrupted gently. You sent money or received? Travis shifted. Both. Family helps family. Bill introduced the expense folders. Page by page, the gallery saw the pattern. Requests, transfers, silence. Travis's face reddened. Cody, when his turn came, looked smaller, voice cracking once. I should have been there. I know that now. The judge asked pointed questions. You posted vacation photos the day of your father's funeral. Explain. Travis, the trip was prepaid. We were grieving in our own way. Delgado's expression didn't change, but her pen paused. Closing arguments were brief. Hargrove leaned on emotion, family ties, natural heirs, the sanctity of equal division. Bill closed with facts, the trust's validity, the absence of evidence for undue influence, and the overwhelming record of one-sided generosity. Judge Delgado took the matter to advisement, ruling by close of business tomorrow. The courtroom emptied slowly. Reporters swarmed the hallway, a Chronicle photographer snapped pictures, a TV crew filmed stand-ups. Eleanor and Mia slipped out a side door with Bill. Back at the ranch that evening, Eleanor sat on the porch swing, Mia beside her. Fireflies blinked in the dusk. The phone buzzed. Travis's number. She let it go to voicemail. The next afternoon, Bill called. We won. Trust upheld in full. Petition denied.
costs assessed against petitioners. Eleanor exhaled a breath she hadn't known she was holding. Mia hugged her so hard ribs creaked. That night they barbecued under the pecan tree, brisket Harlan's way, slow smoked with his secret rub. They ate on paper plates, laughed at small things, toasted with sweet tea. "To new beginnings," Eleanor said, raising her glass. Mia smiled through tears. "To Grandpa, and to us." Outside, the stars wheeled overhead, steady and bright. Somewhere in the dark, the ranch breathed easier.
Chapter 5. Blooming Legacy. 3 years slipped by the way Texas seasons do. Fast when you're watching the calendar, slow and sweet when you're living inside them. The ranch on Willow Creek Drive looked much the same on the surface. Same red brick house with a wide porch, same live oaks shading the driveway, same pecan trees standing sentinel over Harlan's grave plot at the back of the 5 acres. But underneath, everything had changed in quiet, permanent ways. Eleanor Whitaker turned 75 that spring. She still rose before dawn, still fed the chickens, still planted a garden that fed half the neighbors. Her hair had gone fully silver, pulled back in a loose knot most days, and laugh lines had deepened around her eyes. The grief that once sat heavy on her chest had softened into something gentler, a companion rather than a weight. She talked to Harlan every evening on the porch swing, updating him on the weather, the price of feed, the new grandbabies down the road. Sometimes she swore she felt his answer in the breeze that stirred the wind chimes he'd hung years ago. Mia Whitaker had become Dr. Mia Whitaker 18 months earlier, graduating from UT Austin's Dell Medical School with honors and a quiet determination that made Eleanor's heart swell every time she thought about it. The trust had covered tuition, books, living expenses, even a used Honda Civic so Mia could commute to clinical rotations without worry. She'd chosen pediatrics, just as she dreamed, working now at a community clinic in Fort Worth's underserved North Side. The clinic's pediatric wing carried a small brass plaque by the entrance, the Harlan Whitaker Children's Care Center. Mia had insisted on the name. Eleanor had cried the day it was unveiled. Mia married a kind, steady man named Javier, a structural engineer who'd grown up in El Paso and knew how to two-step without stepping on toes. They'd had their wedding on the ranch under strings of cafe lights hung from the pecan tree, with bluebonnets and Indian pipebrush blooming wild along the fence line. Eleanor had walked Mia down the short aisle of folding chairs, Harlan's gold wedding band pinned to her bouquet like a talisman. Javier wore boots polished to a shine and looked at Mia the way Harlan used to look at Eleanor, like she was the only thing in the world worth seeing. 2 children followed in quick succession. Little Harlan Javier, HJ for short, arrived first, a sturdy boy with his great-grandfather's blue eyes and a laugh that echoed across the pasture. Then came Sofia Elena, dark-haired and curious, already reaching for everything within arm's length. Sundays became sacred again. Mia, Javier, and the kids drove in from Fort Worth, filling the house with noise and small feet and the smell of coffee brewing. Eleanor taught HJ how to gather eggs without scaring the hens. She showed Sophia how to press wildflowers between wax paper. Javier helped fix fences and mow the back 40. They barbecued brisket the way Harlan had taught, low and slow, with his secret rub, and ate under the pecan tree until the stars came out. Travis and Cody had faded to the edges of the picture. The lawsuit laws had cost them dearly. Legal fees, public humiliation, the slow unraveling of their carefully curated lives. Travis's real estate deals dried up after the Chronicle article painted him as the entitled son who'd partied while his father was buried. He lost the McMansion in Plano for foreclosure, moved into a condo in Frisco, and started over with smaller flips. His second marriage ended quietly. The Pilates instructor moved on. He called Eleanor twice a year, birthdays, Christmas, leaving voicemails that were polite but hollow. She returned them, brief and civil.
Forgiveness had come, but trust had not. Cody fared worse for a while. 2 gyms closed during the post-pandemic slump. The third barely limped along. He checked into rehab for prescription painkillers he'd started taking after a gym injury, then therapy for the guilt that followed. He wrote Eleanor a long letter once, handwritten, no excuses, just regret. "I didn't know how to be the son you needed. I'm trying to learn now." She wrote back, "Learning is good. Keep going." They spoke occasionally. He visited once, stayed for coffee on the porch, and left without asking for anything. It wasn't reconciliation, but it was a start. Eleanor never regretted the trust, not once. She watched Mia thrive, confident, compassionate, grounded, and knew she'd honored Harlan's memory in the only way that mattered. The ranch remained hers for life, then Mia's forever. No auctions, no strangers tearing it apart. It would stay a place where children could run barefoot, where stories were told under the stars, where love was measured in presence, not dollars. One warm April afternoon, bluebonnets thick along the fence rows, Eleanor drove the old Ford out to the family plot. She parked under the pecan tree, carried a small bouquet of sunflowers, Harlan's favorite, and knelt beside the simple granite marker. Harlan Whitaker, beloved husband, father, grandfather, 1934-2023. Show up. That's all that matters. She arranged the flowers, brushed dirt from the stone, and sat cross-legged in the grass the way she used to when they picnicked there as newlyweds. "Well, love," she said aloud, "the girl did it. She's a doctor now. Got 2 little ones who climb all over me like monkeys. The house is loud on Sundays, laughing, running, plates clattering, just like you always wanted." A breeze moved through the branches, rustling leaves in soft applause. Travis and Cody, they're trying in their way. I let them back in a little, not all the way, not yet, but enough to keep the door cracked. I think you'd approve of that. You always had a bigger heart than me. She looked up at the sky, clear and endless blue. The ranch is safe. Mia loves it the way we did. She'll raise her kids here, tell them your stories. They'll know who you were, not from money, but from the way you lived, showing up. Every day. A mockingbird landed on the fence post, tilted its head and sang a snatch of cardinal song, then dove away. Eleanor smiled. "I miss you, Harlan. Every single day. But I'm all right. We're all right." She stood slowly, brushed grass from her jeans, and walked back to the truck. As she drove up the long driveway towards the house, she saw Mia's SUV already parked, early for Sunday dinner. Through the kitchen window, she caught sight of HJ chasing Sophia across the yard, Javier lifting them both onto his shoulders, Mia laughing with her head thrown back. Eleanor parked, stepped out, and breathed in the scent of blooming jasmine and fresh-cut grass. Home, she thought. Legacy wasn't about the size of the bank account or the square footage of the house. It was this: small feet running, voices calling Grandma, hands reaching for hers, loved passed down not in dollars, but in time, in presence, in showing up. She walked toward the porch, the swing creaking in welcome, and felt Harlan's quiet approval in every step. The roses he'd planted decades ago bloomed fierce and red along the fence. They'd faced winters, droughts, neglect, and still they flowered. Just like love, just like family, just like them.